Hey everyone, I'm Rachel,
And I'm Jen, and welcome to Devilish Bookworms, the podcast.
where we read and review books and release episodes every Tuesday.
This week we have Talismans, Teacups, and Trysts by Starling.
Yay!
Penelope Sedgwick is a high society socialite by day, but by night she routinely dons a disguise to help her solve crimes for the ladies of the community. When a seemingly open and shut case begins to lead Penelope down a rabbit hole filled with secrets and intrigue, she learns more about the neighbors and her own family than she ever thought possible. Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun.
So, Rachel, let's dive in.
So this book is kind of like it feels like a cottagecore aesthetic meets Jane Austen characters with that was written by Agatha Christie with pet dragons. Is how
I,
I feel about this book.
oh my God, that's fantastic. I like that better than my description of a female Sherlock Holmes with magic and dragons, but
I'm dead.
I mean, I guess we know who the freaking writer is in this one.
Yeah, I feel
Oh,
like her tone definitely came through the pages
little bit. Oh,
a little
goodness.
bit. So, as Jen said, Penelope is kind of like, she's a part of society. She's fancy dresses, born from, higher class. Um, and so during the day, she does all of that, right? She has her whole thing. But by night, she uses magic to change her disguise or to change her appearance so that she could kind of play a little bit of a like a private eye, like a detective. And the women of the society use her to kind of solve their crimes, I guess, like issues, whatever,
Their qualms.
their qualms, which is a really cool idea. I don't know. I don't think I've come across a storyline that was based around like okay, all of the I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. It's kind of like the women's problems. Like normally you'd hire a detective or like call the police, but the women all got together and they're like, no, 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 these are our problems. We'll figure it out.
I love how you put that, where it's like all the ladies are taking care of their own problems, because that's exactly what it was. Because it wasn't just like, you know, routine crime, like this guy shot somebody and the cops need to come in type of deal. It was like, oh, this went missing, or, this person is doing something scandalous and I want to know what it is type of deal. So
Mhm.
it wasn't high crime, as you put it, until it wasn't.
Right. No, it was weird because it was like, so we all know that, especially in the Regency era, that kind of time, it was imperative that society functioned a certain way, right? And whereas the men were the ones who were, you know, in charge of the politics and the banking and the whole thing, the women were more in charge of the social structure, right? And so what Penelope was really doing was she was helping with the things that would I suppose threaten the social order. It wasn't just like, you had the scandalous things, the little like mean girl kind of situations, right? But then you had things that stepped a little bit above that, where it was like, okay, this is an actual. She was like a high society a fixer.
Mm-hmm.
She was like a Regency era. poster for the ladies of the time.
Yep, for sure. When I first started reading this, I wasn't sure how I was actually going to feel about the FMC in this, but
Oh, okay.
kind of I like because when we first meet her, she was like, "Oh, the this person's impolite because they got crumbs on their outfit while eating, or they didn't offer her honey with her tea instead of sugar." So it was like, is she gonna be snobbish and then smart on top of it? But really quickly,
Yes.
actually I actually started to really love her character. Um, it took a little bit, but at the same time, it was just like one of those moments where I started to be like, okay, so she's actually really chill. She's more down to earth than anybody would, she wanted anybody to know. And I absolutely love
Mhm.
that about her. She kept her composure when she needed to, but then, like, around her family or her assistant, she was like so nonchalant. And I love that.
Yeah. So I feel like we always like push so hard to be ourselves and to make sure that, our that we're accepted for who we are and stuff. And I get that that's a good thing, whatever. But there's something that I absolutely love about people who love to keep um people guessing, when people are
Mm-hmm.
like, you'll never know what I'm thinking, you don't know. I just love that, It's like they're not upset with being forced to hide part of them, or you know what I mean? Like they have the outside appearance of what they allow people to see, and then they have um that other side.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I love when we get to see her other side. Because she's not only very witty, but she can be very diverse and she's comical on top of being really intelligent, which, gives she's a well-rounded character. So like I said, after a little bit, I just really started to love her, and it was really nice to kind of have that second side to her.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did you feel about like the narrator notes?
Okay, so just so that everyone understands, this book is written completely different than you think it is. It's kind of written, you know what this book kind of reminded me of? Do you remember the version of Persuasion that just came out like a year or so ago that you did not love at all?
I knew you were actually going to bring that up.
That's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah, because there was a lot of like look at the camera moment type of things, except in like obviously reading it. So, like in that movie, she would stop, look at the camera, and say something to the audience. And that's exactly what this is. And we saw something like that in Enola Holmes as well. They had that kind of
I never
same
watched
vibe.
that. I don't.
Oh, okay. So this book kind of gave me
I
Enola
don't love
Holmes
what's her
vibes.
face.
I know you don't.
Oh, what's her name?
I don't know.
Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
that's okay.
Something about her
Girl.
bugs.
Well, in in that movie, by the way, Henry Cavill's in it, so
I know he is.
anyways, um she stops and constantly looks at the camera, talks to us, and gives us like little bits of information or explains things. And that's what this book does. Just in the middle of a conversation, there's just a narrator's note.
Who's the OG of that? Was it Harriet the Spy?
Ooh, I don't know.
Boom.
Maybe. Ooh, I forgot about that.
I love Michelle Trachtenberg, except when she plays Dawn in Buffy. But in all fairness, that wasn't really her fault. But like, well, she did what she could with what she was given.
Oh my goodness.
Um, So you asked me a question and I still haven't answered it. How did I feel about it? I actually did not hate it. I was thrown off at first, but once I understood um what was going on, then I was totally fine with it. I didn't like so like in movies and TV, I actually don't hate that when they like stop and who did that with Jude Law did it in Alfie, I think. I don't remember. But I don't hate it. Um, I don't know for me that it like added a whole bunch here, except it just enhanced like the quirkiness because this is a
Mm,
very quirky book,
it really
and I
is.
love that. It's so like it's like slapstick. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Um, so real quick, I want to read the narrator's note, which is like the first of a lot of narrator's notes, but this is like the beginning, like the dedication, not the dedication, but it was like, up there. So it says, Dearest reader, we are about to embark on a whimsical adventure. First, though, I must warn you this tale contains frivolity, mischief, and mayhem. It also contains harm to animals, bullying, and murder. However, this is a cozy tale. Such things take place off page. Oh, and there are brawls. Consider yourself forewarned. P.S. You may spot what you believe are historical inaccuracies in this story. In our universe, dragons beg for scraps at the dinner table, and unicorns occasionally bless babes at their christening. In other words, things are a tad different in our world. Keep calm and carry on.
I actually really love that narrator's note. That was
It's so
so
cute.
brilliant. It really was.
It was a great way to put like little trigger warnings, but also like, don't worry, it's not like that.
And on top of that, to kind of also tell people stay in their lane. Not everything's supposed to be accurate, you know? And
Right.
I love that because so many people probably would have come for her for, just little tiny things like maybe the way that the assistant acted or, stuff like that. And it's like this is her story. And I love that she kind of gave that like, listen, just calm the frick down. Let me tell it.
Yeah. She also put in a characters of note page and then in parentheses and a few less noteworthy ones, which I think is hilarious. But it's basically a list of all of the characters in the book and like what they are, like who they are, and then also like Cerberus is not a three-headed dog. But it's one of those, I think, what's crazy? Authors are getting so freaking creative.
Yeah, they really
Like they're
are.
getting, it's not just like a quick picture of a map inside of their jackets anymore. You know what I mean? Like they have recipes that go along with their books, and they have character breakdowns like this. They have Spotify playlists that go along with their books. Authors are getting so crafty.
Hmm. Honestly, it's really fabulous. Like, especially seeing so many indie authors like really shine. It's really awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think that's because we appreciate indie authors.
Well, yeah, that's true. We really do. This cover is actually really freaking cool. It's different little scenes inside of little portraits on the front cover, and it's fucking brilliant. I love this. And why do I keep saying it's
I
brilliant?
love this cover too
It's really
because it is
cute.
brilliant.
It is.
The
It
cover
really
is honestly what kind of like pulled me in first because so you can tell it's very clear, right? Like her tone in everything is just perfection because you can tell in from the picture, the way the style, the way it's drawn out, that it's has that like sense and sensibilities kind of like Jane
is.
Austen feel, right?
Yep.
But then you look closer and you see that there's like a dragon and like
A woman with a knife and a pistol.
yeah, like there's so much to it. And then like okay, you know how like good art you can kind of like look at forever. I feel like this is one of those because like you look in one frame and there's like teacups and a dagger, and I don't know. It's just the cover is what really got me first.
Oh yeah, and I kept having fun like taking pictures with the cover because it worked with so many different backgrounds. I love it.
It did actually. It really did.
The plant one was the best. I just
Yeah, just kudos to the person who created it.
hmm And also the author for writing it.
Yeah.
Well, I just had to throw it out there.
At the beginning of all the chapters, they have quotes, and well, it's each of the chapters. It's really funny. They have like chapter names, like the chapter that begins it all, or like the chapter with the tryst, and it kind of reminds me of like the episode names for Friends, like the one where Monica, whatever. Um, but so not only do they have like cute names, but they're also quotes that begin each chapter, and some of the quotes are like made up, like fictional it's like a fictional quote within the universe. um and then others are quotes from like Fordyce's sermons and quotes from Sir William Garrow. And as much as like I love real quotes, right? Like I love real quotes because, you know, if you had never, I think we talked about this before, like if you've never heard of the person, then you can kind of like look them up. Um it gives you things, you know, like knowledge. You get to like look at stuff you never looked at before. But also I love when there are quotes from fake stuff, you know, because it's kind of like it enhances the authenticity of this world that's being built, you know.
Okay. I love that. Okay, so when I was reading them, I was like, oh, that's neat. And I never gave it a second thought whether, you know, well, obviously you could tell which ones are fake and which ones are real, just if you have some knowledge of literature. But at this,
is it mentioning dragons?
yeah, it might be, you know, that is a big telltale. But I mean, like I said, I never really gave it a second thought whether it just added to it. I thought they were cute and sometimes funny and just like I love that you always give it like a little something extra that I just a different perspective that I'd never thought.
Thank you. Well, because it's like, you know, you think about like especially when it's like textbooky. If it's a quote from something that was supposed to be like a textbook, or I Kate Tiernan wrote the sweep series, and in the sweep series there's a book. I think it's the one with the green cover. You've actually, I don't think you've ever read them,
No.
but I would very much love for you to read them because they're wonderful. Actually, I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent. I'm so sorry to the author and to our fans, like both of you that listen to us. So on Audible, there's like the first four, there's 14 books total in the series. And I have loved this series since I was freaking in high school. No, in middle school. And on Audible, there's only like four. I'm like, I just want the other ones. Can we get the other ones? Like, come on. I'm just going to record them myself so that I can have myself talking and reading the books to myself. So, in that book, there are letters that are being told back and forth. So at the beginning of each chapter, there's a section of a letter that was written to someone, and then you get kind of like, well, I guess not. I was gonna say kind of like Dracula, except for the whole thing is written in letters and journals and stuff. Um, I don't know. I think it just adds to the story for me. Anyway, you know, you did talk about the narrator's note. Um, and so like, okay, so I'll read the first one just so that I can like let them know kind of what's going on. So it says, narrator's note, dearest reader, a scandalous rumor has spread that our heroine did in fact shoot the coachman later that evening. She did not. He was a party to an incident involving pistols and drink that same day is neither here nor there. Besides, had she been involved, she would have not missed. Those are the kind of the narrator's notes that are all throughout. And it just it it adds so much like quirkiness and fun to it. Um and then also she has like not just the narrator's notes, but also in parentheses, she adds stuff. So this one quote says, unfortunately, rather than scurry to her ladyship with his spoils in tow, the coachman fawned over the teardrops shaped scales, humming to himself as he admired them one by one, and may have slipped one into his pocket, but you did not hear that from me. It's so like gossipy and so like um I don't know. I guess gossipy is the word that I want.
Yeah, I would say that's kind of accurate because it's like they're giving you all the gossip. Ooh, kind of like, all right, old age gossip girl. So instead of getting text messages saying everybody's business, you're getting little narrator notes. And a lot of them,
Yeah.
eh, like you had said, are like good information or just like quirky remarks, which is really great, especially at certain moments where you know you have her explain like ladies don't sneeze or excuse me, when ladies sneeze they don't burst out with achoo, they just nice. So like it's little quirks like that are all throughout the entire book. And honestly, there was so many that I kept laughing over because she just put a lot of great banter. And I don't want to go too into detail because there's one that's one of my quotes, but this author literally describes everything so beautifully and elegant, and then you have her do these little narrator notes and side comments that are funny, and it really did add a lot to it for me. And at first I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about him, and just like the main character, I fell in love with the whole process. There was a point in the book where she was describing um her family and the way that they are, and they had a certain look. Now, she called it the Sedgwick stare,
Mm-hmm.
which honestly I love this because my family has an equivalent stare. It's the look though, okay? And it's literally the look of like utter death and damnation. And if any of us give you this look, you probably have approximately like 3 minutes to get out of our face or change our mood before we like literally hurt you. And I love that her family had this kind of vibe to it, especially because her aunt and uncle were very quirky, but they also had like a rough and tumble side, and I absolutely love that. And
Mm-hmm.
it seems like a lot of her characters were, as much as they were in society's like standards, they were not normal, and I absolutely dug that, especially with the fact that she says a lady always carries a pistol, and I was like, I don't, but I carry a knife.
I know. Right. I also always carry a knife, as I think we should, you know?
Absolutely. I think everybody should have something to defend themselves.
Right? I feel like it's I feel like it's survival 101.
Yep. I mean, it was kind of like one of those things that they always taught you, like carry your keys in between your hand or your in between your fingers. That way you can stab someone if they try to hurt you. It's just like now we've
Mm-hmm.
just upped that and we have a stabby apparatus.
Yeah. I don't think that we mentioned, and it's not really a spoiler. But Penelope lives with her aunt and her uncle. Their brother and sister. She she's kind of a little orphan baby. Um, she lives with her aunt and her uncle, and I love their whole family dynamic, but I love her uncle.
Yes, he's so cute.
And I have to say, so it's not, so here's the thing. Her uncle is deaf, and so they sign everything. And I am obsessed with the fact that, like, it's just, I mean, we're seeing it from the family's point of view, right? So it's not, it's normal. It's just, it's not a big deal. It's not a big thing. It's nothing, like, it's just, he's her uncle, and him being deaf is not a part of the story. Like, it's not, I'm not explaining it correctly. It's not a focus. It would be totally okay if it was a focus, but he was just, it was just part of who he is. And I love
Yep,
that, you know?
absolutely. Especially the one other time that it is actually brought up besides the one time she says, "Oh yeah, my uncle's deaf and signing." Um, is when Penelope meets up with her aunt Josephine's best friend, Mrs. Stevenson. And let me tell you, this woman was a badass because she's not only like a feisty character, but there was a man that was talking badly about Uncle Archie, and all of a sudden she just walked up to him and punched him straight in the face and said, "That's for talking shit about Uncle Archie," and walked away. And I'm like, God damn, I love this woman. Not only like did she call him a brilliant man that you're talking about, but she stood up for someone that wasn't even in the room. And
Yeah.
he might not have needed that standing up for, but at the same time, like just to have someone's back while they're not there is just pure chef's kiss.
Yeah. Well, because that's when it matters too. You know what I mean? Like, what matters most, sure, is how you treat the person while they're around, but how you defend them when they're not there.
Yeah. Being deaf was never a problem. And it wasn't even the fact that they were just making fun of him for being deaf. It was just the sheer fact that they were making fun of him, period. That was the fucking key.
Hmm.
And I love that.
Yeah. I loved his character. I was raised with a an uncle that was different, you know, like fun and kind of quirky, and showed me all the weird things. And um so I really loved that dynamic of having that uncle that was kind of like your best friend in a way, like partner in crime.
Mm-hmm. I wish I had that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my uncle and I love your uncle.
Hmm.
But I never had that dynamic where, you know, it was just my dad and I being best friends.
Yeah.
You so but honestly the whole relationship dynamic between all of her family members was great. Even okay, I absolutely loved Aunt Josephine.
Hmm.
Now, there was a point where she goes, and she's talking about a different family, and she's like, she's describing them as vainglorious twits with brains and morals of a brickbat. I lost my shit and I started laughing because that is like the most elegant way to literally insult someone. And it was beautiful.
Aunt Josephine kind of reminded me of Marilla Cuthbert. If anyone has ever seen um Anne of Green Gables, I don't know about Anne with an E. I'm talking about, like, I mean, I'm assuming, I don't know. I'm talking about like the Canadian version, or even like the books, like Aunt Josephine was kind of like, she was like tried really hard to be proper and do the things, but like sometimes she was down to get her hands dirty too.
Mm.
You know who I loved?
I hope it's who I think you're gonna say.
Now, listen, I love Uncle Archie. I love him. But Penelope has an assistant. So her name is Walt. And this is the way that we're introduced to Walt. Okay. As she entered the room, it was not Mrs. Patience Jones who lounged across a sage wingback chair, puffing on a pipe. No, it was her assistant, Miss Verity Walters, or Walt, as she had insisted on being called since her third birthday. Still dressed in her bottle green robes with her coiled curls tumbling down her shoulders, she lounged like a Greek goddess being fanned by a palm leaf. And I immediately thought of like Marlene Dietrich, you know, that like beautiful, gorgeous woman who also liked to wear pants and like smoke a pipe and like gamble with the guys. And, like that is immediately what I thought of when we were introduced to her.
Okay. So I don't know if you ever watched the show Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
I did not.
Okay. So there was a stage manager for Mrs. Maisel named Susie, and literally Walt was the same vibe, like smoking the pipe or the uh a cigar, always wore pants, just always willing to fight, but also like wanted to, make sure she got her money.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good show, or at least the first season was, because I didn't watch it after that.
I Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen it. I remember when it came up, but you know.
I mean, it wasn't really a show for everybody. I just happened to, choose it by chance, and I it made me laugh, so I kept watching.
Yeah, so as much as I loved Walt, I think Uncle Archie's my favorite character, not to jump the gun, but I just love when weirdos have weirdo family members that they can connect with. Like Benedict and Eloise, like smoking on the swing set in Bridgerton.
Yeah.
So while we're on the subject, though, since I said my favorite character, which is definitely Uncle Archie, who is your favorite character?
So honestly, I would have to agree with Uncle Archie being like top two, but other than that, I think Walt was my other favorite because of the fact that she was an absolute menace that didn't just fit the stereotypical woman vibe that time frame.
I love
So,
her so much.
she was so good. And like she was witty, she was a thief, she was always eating something from somebody else's place, but she was able to play the role very well. And I love that about her.
Mm-hmm. I love me a rebel, man.
Yep.
It's kind of hard to have rebels when everyone acts the same, but like when you get yourself a rebel, oof, I just live for it.
Mm.
In the story, I feel like we've talked about everything except for the actual story. So in the story, she is um hired on to investigate this situation, and then she stumbles upon another crime. Okay. And when she stumbles upon the crime, it's both Penelope and Walt. And Walt keeps stealing chocolate. And she goes out of the corner of her eye. She caught Walt secreting a third chocolate in her pocket. Having been spotted, Walt froze, trembling like like a child sneaking biscuits. And then Walt was like, "Who's gonna notice?" And like, honestly, who was gonna notice?
I don't want to go like too far into the story, but there was a moment where she stole an apple, but yet they were about to be like interrupted and she dropped the apple. Just imagine, you come home and all of a sudden there's an apple just laying on the floor. Like you're gonna be fucking
Absolutely
suspicious.
hilarious.
But
So funny.
oh, she was so freaking great. It like I said, she was an absolute menace, but it was a joyful menace. that she
A
brought to
joyful menace to
I
society.
yeah, she was like Dennis the Menace of the book. Like you enjoy her you enjoy all of her shenanigans, and she's really freaking adorable about some of it, but it's like, come on, can't you chill for just a few minutes?
One aspect of this book that is going to kind of make it more toward one audience than another audience is the fact that it is very much written for women.
Mm.
The author writes, specifically targeting or like toward women. The book itself is, it's written by women for women about women, you know. Um, and I thought it was funny that almost all the main characters except for Uncle Archie was wicked handsome. I mean, I'm sure Uncle Archie was handsome too, but all of the guys like in her little like world were all really handsome, but they were all dicks. I was like, oh god, Jen's gonna love this book.
Honestly, so there was a part where there was, what was it, dragons, and there was some sort of grouping of animals that usually don't get together. And
Oh, the dragons.
well, there was something else there too,
Yeah,
but
it was the female dragons and the female rhinos.
okay, that's what it was. And she put, there wasn't a man in sight, and they were just graciously eating and basking in the sun without a worry. And I died at that part. And of course, one of my quotes also highlights one of the other moments that I just found glorious about men.
You know what this book reminded me of? I hope that it doesn't come off the wrong way, right? Like some people are really some people who listen might be sensitive to this next comment. It reminded me, if you've ever seen The Little Rascals, of like the He-Man Woman Haters Club, except for
Ah,
females. It was like the
yes.
female version of the He-Man Woman Haters Club.
Oh my God, that is so great. I love that so much. Oh, don't take offense to that, people. That is fantastic.
I mean, honestly, if you do, I feel like that's a you problem, but like it wasn't meant,
Yeah, it wasn't meant
it
in
wasn't meant to
like
piss
a,
anyone off. If you got pissed off, sorry,
yeah, it wasn't
but not sorry.
malicious.
But that's exactly what it reminded me of. It was funny.
Oh, I love that. Oh, goodness.
So there is an aspect of the book that I want to chat about a little bit, and it's the fact that like there are um like powers, right? Like people have get or gifts. And so some people can, they're called whisperers, and the whisperers can talk to animals basically. And then there's also, I don't remember what all of them are called, but like the main character, I don't think it's a spoiler to say that she can hear um basically like the shadows of what happened to an object. So it kind of like a clairvoyant, like if she touches an object, she can hear and see what happened. But they stressed that she could hear it. Um, and I want to be a whisperer. Like I want to talk to animals of all flavors.
I want to just be able to sense magic, but not while sneezing.
Oh, that
That
was
seems
what hers was,
inconvenient.
huh? It was the sensing magic. She could still hear, but I think I was combining the two.
Well, she kind of had like a double dose of magic in a sense, because she could sense the magic, and then when she touched an item, she could actually bring forth memories.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, she was obviously, that gave her an advantage as a sleuth, as a private detective. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you have that one little item that last person touched, and great little way to kind of get in there. But there were other people, um I can't remember any of the characters' names. But there was one that was that would collect different items. They would be drawn to different items and they would find them. It was just
Mm-hmm.
it was really cute how their powers worked.
Yeah. There was also yeah, the Yeti. The Yeti was in there. You know what it reminded me of? Like the powers. It kind of reminded me of iZombie. I don't think you've ever seen it, but she's a zombie and she works in a morgue. And when she eats the person's brains, she can like take on like aspects of their personality and like have their memories and stuff for a little bit until it wears off.
I did briefly catch a couple episodes, but I didn't get like too into it
I loved
because,
it.
well, it was watched without me, so I just kind of lost motivation to watch it.
Yeah. You know what? I had a situation like that with the very last Harry Potter. Um I know I said the HP word. The very last Harry Potter, I when it was in theaters, I was supposed to see it with someone, but they went and saw it with someone else. And I was like, weird, you're not dating that person. So why'd you go see it with them? And
Mm,
even now that I'm like over all of it, I'm like, I still have only seen that one probably like twice.
ooh, I can understand though, because it's like I'll never get back to like iZombie. There's a couple of other shows that I refuse to watch.
Yeah.
There's one show that I kind of do want to watch because I was watching it in tandem and I it was just really weird, but I really liked it.
Do you remember what show it was?
Escaping polygamy.
Oh, sounds like a laugh riot.
No, it was just like it was really interesting. Like I so for educational purposes, like I never really knew what these people went through with that whole like big cult
Mm-hmm.
and that guy that's in jail and everything. He's still giving them instructions and he's in jail. Like it's a huge fucking thing. And I never knew how big it really was. And I learned a lot about it because of that show. So I don't know, it was really good. But
Huh.
anyway, yeah. I learned something
Hmm.
because of that.
I love learning things.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I learned with this book?
Ooh, what?
I learned that it used to be considered very polite in high society for women to wipe off the corners of their mouths with the tablecloths.
Not with a napkin?
Not with a napkin, with a tablecloth.
Huh. Interesting.
So the quote says, hold on, let me the quote says she patted her lips with the with her napkin, not the edge of the tablecloth, as was preferred in some households. And I googled it, and yeah, it used to be considered very polite, to wipe your mouth off with the edge of the tablecloth, not a napkin.
Interesting.
I know.
I would have thought that would be rude as fuck.
Oh, listen. You know what one of my favorite parts was? And it made me think of you and also me.
Okay.
So it says Penelope stood mouth agape, eyes the size of saucers in the middle of her offices. It is before noon. Yes, replied Walt, her feet draped over the arm of her chair as usual, and you're awake. Her assistant exhaled a perfect circle of smoke, obviously. And it was like, Penelope was just so gobsmacked that Walt was awake before noon. And I was like, yo, if
Uh,
that's not Jen catching me for real.
no shit. Because they're like literally when you had that time frame off and you were like up at like 7, 8, I was like, what the fuck? Are you okay? Like,
I
what is
know.
what is happening? Like it felt
I
so
miss being
wrong.
unemployed.
Oh, oh my.
Oh,
So, did you have a favorite quote?
Um, yes, I did. And I highlighted a couple, but my favorite quote of all, it was two sentences. A look passed between the ladies, communicating what they already knew. They were not employer and employee. They were friends, and not everyday friends, but the sort you would ride to the gates of hell with while cackling in delight.
Mm.
Mm,
Oh, I love that.
I know.
Mm.
I just love you.
Oh, I just love you. Oh, I just gotta wipe these tears away real quick.
There was another part that said had he been whispering the first dozen digits of pi to her, she would have been a lost woman. But as he likely had never even heard of the word radius, his smiles were wasted.
Stop it. I have that one written down too.
Yo, it was so funny. I was like, that's the weird stuff that would win me over, man.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh my God. That was so great because literally that was one of my top four.
That's awesome. What other
Uh,
ones do you have?
so one of them was the whole vainglorious twins from Aunt Josephine.
Sure.
It was just hilarious. Um, but another one was this is a place without schedules or appointments where time faded like morning mist. Days and hours were marked by sunshine and sunsets, the buds of spring and the ripening fruit, not by calendars or watches. And I don't know, I just thought it was like it brought me to like a sense of peace and just tranquility. And I love that. Just I would love to be able to live like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the other one was had she been honest with herself, she would have acknowledged that she too struggled to accept herself wholly.
Yeah. I'm glad that that was one of your favorites.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say some sort of shit about that.
I just said I'm glad. I don't know what you're talking about.
Uh-huh. I know, you have no idea.
No idea. So, Talisman, Teacups, and Trysts was written by one of our friends, Kay Starling. And if you go to her threads or Instagram accounts, her handle is author Kay Starling, AuthorKStarling. She also has a website, authorkstarling.com. And on her website, you can download a sample of her book. You can get to all of her socials. There's, contact us. And you can also buy some merch, which I love her merch. There's one that just came out, a shirt that just came out that says read banned books, write banned books, buy banned books, support banned books. And I freaking love it. So go check her out. I suggest reading this book. Jen, what was your overall impression?
Honestly, I thought it was really witty and comical, so I loved it.
Yeah, it was very much a fun read.
It really was.
All right, will you let everyone know what we are reading next week?
All right. Next week, we are reading The Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole.
Ooh, ooh. All right, everyone. So if you can, go ahead and give us a like, subscribe, and follow us on all of the socials. Come say
Yes.
hi.
We don't bite hard.
All right, everyone. Well, we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.